Greetings everyone, Tim Anderson here, aka Renfail, and welcome to my overview video on Star Wars Squadrons. This is a game that I was really anticipating, given how much I enjoyed the X-Wing TIE Fighter games of the 90s. My favorite, of course, was X-Wing Alliance. I've talked about it a lot, mostly because X-Wing Alliance had more of a story in the sense that you were actually playing kind of a character and moving through as opposed to just being a pilot. So there was more of an RPG aspect to X-Wings Alliance that I really liked compared to the first two. But that whole series was just amazing. Definitely was my first foray into the flight sim style of games. Pretty much the not the only ones. The Wing Commander games were another series of games that I really enjoyed over the years, which is one of the reasons I'm looking forward to Star Citizen so much. But I'm not one of those people who's into Star Citizen for thousands and thousands of dollars. I pre-ordered it on Kickstarter back in the day. I'm happy whenever it comes out, so be that as it may. In any case, let's jump into Star Wars Squadrons. There's a lot to unpack here. I think first and foremost, one of the things that I think a lot of people really like is the fact that it's a $40 game with no microtransactions. It's just a game that you can go into. Everything you can earn in the game in terms of customization for your ship, all that stuff can be done through the online matches, which can be played against other players or you can play against the AI. So you have the choice of doing purely PvE or doing PvP, so it's entirely up to you. The one thing that I have seen people complain about on the internet is that there are zero plans to add more content to this game. And at first glance, there's not a lot here in terms of the single player storyline. I went through it in 6 hours. Was on easy mode. I know some people have said that they got about 10 hours out of it, but I went through on easy mode, got 10 hours out of the single player storyline, and from there you're forced into doing the multiplayer stuff, which again, it's not necessarily multiplayer because you could do these operations against the AI as opposed to having to do it with other players. But it is a lot more fun with other people if you have a squadron that you can fly with. It definitely adds another layer to it because there's overwhelming odds, and having other people at your disposal to strategize with in voice chat is extremely helpful in terms of taking down Imperial warships, especially when you go up against the Star Destroyers. That's quite an issue when you're flying with the AI because it's, even though you can call out targets, it's never as efficient as other players can be. So I think it's definitely more fun and you're more efficient when you play with other players. But be that as it may, uh, $40 base game, you get everything there. It is a sort of a short single player campaign, so if you're looking for the amount of content that you got out of, say, the X-Wing and TIE Fighter games or X-Wing Alliance, you're not going to get the same amount of gameplay out of the single player missions. And once you get into the operations, the multiplayer component, and these missions that you're playing with AI and stuff, those do add another level of gameplay to it, but I kind of feel that that's one of the areas where the game is lacking, and I think a lot of people say that on the internet as well, because there's only so many things that you can do in this game before you're just repeating content over and over and over, which makes it kind of a bummer because they have no plans to add to this. So that is kind of a downside. But if you do just like getting into the cockpit of an X-Wing or a TIE Fighter and going out there and blowing up, the bad guys, it's incredibly satisfying. It's very easy to jump into, and it definitely gives you that Star Wars experience. Now, the one thing that I don't like on a personal level is the fact that when you're doing the single player storyline campaign, is that you alternate between the Imperial and the New Republic. So you're never allowed to just pick, I want to be New Republic and I'm only going to fly an X-Wing, or like the old games, you're going to fly the X-wing, A-wing, Y-wing, B-wing, so on and so forth. Here, you'll do, 2, 3 missions as an Imperial, and then 2, 3, maybe 4 missions as the Republic, and back and forth. And it is the same storyline moving in a general direction, but that is one thing that I'm not a big fan of because I much prefer a focused storyline that says, okay, I'm going to play as the Imperial, I'm going to play these 12 missions as the Imperial, and then, okay, now I'm going to switch over to the Republic side, and I'm going to play, 12 missions as the Republic side. But it's a small thing, it's not a big deal. It's just one of those things that it's kind of a pet peeve. It doesn't really take away from my enjoyment of the game too much because all the ships fly similarly. The only really big difference between, say, the TIE fighters and the Republic ships versus the Imperial ships is that Republic ships have shields, Imperial ships do not. But you can repair your vessel in flight and etc. So there's a lot of different configurations you can choose from. But before we jump into gameplay, I just want to go through here. So customization, for example, there are a lot of things you can customize in your ship, and you can switch between the Imperial hangar and the Republic hangar. And going back over here, I'm going to show you some of the stuff you can do here. You notice that top left is my avatar changes when I switch between. There's really not, there's a very brief character creation process when you start out, but I didn't bother showing it in this video because it's very rudimentary. You're given half a dozen male and female avatars to choose from, half a dozen voice options, and that's about it. So it's really not that important what your character looks like because you're very rarely ever going to be seeing that character. So, alright, so here's my X-wing as an example, and go through, you get 4 starships that you can choose from. There's the X-wing, the Y-wing, the A-wing, and the U-wing, which is my least favorite. Going into the X-wing from here, you can then look at the top and you can go through and you can start off with the components. So there's all these different types of lasers you can choose from, different types of auxiliaries that you can choose from, for all these different bits and pieces on your ship. So you can change the type of engine you have, which can change your maneuverability as well as your speed and so on and so forth. They all have pros and cons. But then you get into customization. So the first thing you can do is you can customize your paint job, which is kind of groovy, but also not that big of a deal. It's let me just show you here. We'll go ahead and pick the Varshada. Then you can get into decals, and you'll notice that it's changing the color of the decal on my wings. Then you get into the holograms. So in your ship on the right-hand side here, you can have a Desart piece, you can have a pilot portrait, chopper, Exogarth, galaxy map, or a monkey lizard. And these are just cool little things that you can add to your ship. And you notice it says cannot be acquired, you need more glory. Glory is earned by playing in the non-single player storyline. Then you get into the dashboard, you can have bobbleheads, little pod racer toy, a Tauntaun plush, training remote replica, Ewok, all these plushies, etc. And then you can get into hanging flare, which is over on the right hand side there, so you can have like a carved Millennium Falcon, flowers, medical droid, crate crystal, Naboo starfighter, Death Star, right? Yeah, destroyed Death Star, Haas snowspeeder, land speeder. So there's all these different ways that you can customize your ship, from the way it looks, from the way it flies, to the type of missiles it uses, to the countermeasure it has, to the lasers it's using, so on and so forth. And all of that, apart from the actual components part, all of the customization for the cosmetics is done through the multiplayer section here. And there's a couple of different ways. You can go straight into quick matches for PvP. I'm not a big fan of that. But you go in here and multiplayer, and there's a couple of different options here. There's dogfights, which is where 2 squadrons fight for superiority in a starfighter only battle across the galaxy, and fleet battles. And I did this the other day, but I didn't realize that for some reason, I had disconnected from the online component, so it actually didn't track my progress. So I got to redo it again. But there's a tutorial that you can run through. The fleet battles basically take about 30 minutes to go through, and it's just some back and forth. There's a ton of great videos out there on the internet which show this in action. I might do a video on that multiplayer component sometime. Today, I'm going to just jump in and kind of show you a little bit of the game. I've already put up I believe there's 4 videos I did here on YouTube. I streamed them on Twitch and then imported it here to YouTube that show the single player storyline campaign. So if you actually want to see that in action in its entirety, you can go check that out. But I am going to jump in and play the first prologue section here to give you guys a little bit of a taste of what the game looks like in action. And then we'll go from there. I probably won't do any multiplayer today, because I haven't done enough of it to be proficient at it. I don't want to do a video where I'm really sucking horribly. So without further ado, let's jump in and just do the storyline real quick. Oh, by the way, there's also challenges that you can choose to pursue. And then you can list your career, your current rank placement, so on and so forth. That's all important for the multiplayer section. So let's go to the storyline. I'm going to just replay the prologue here and give you a chance to just see kind of what the game looks like. Now, you start off on the Imperial side. Lord Vader's Command is the name of the prologue, but it does set up the storyline. Now, I did not actually show the prologue in my previous videos, so I'll give you guys a chance to take a look at this.
Pre-flight checks. Pilot, boot up your cockpit systems.
Roger that, sir. And it's all first person.
All systems up and running. Pre-flight complete. Let's get a clean launch. Lock onto my fighter. Forward sensor, online and tracking. Now, throttle up and deploy out of the hangar.
Now we're going to follow Captain Jeeves around. Now I've chosen to modify my controls. I'm on a controller here as opposed to a joystick, because I couldn't find one. Everything's sold out between Microsoft Flight Sim and this game.
Copy, Vigilance. All pilots follow me. We'll do a quick pass of the fleet and calibrate flight controls. Sure thing. Stay mobile. We don't want any collisions.
From inside, you forget how big our Star Destroyers really are.
Careful. The shields won't harm us. Flying so close to the hull is no time to get careless.
In other words, don't crash.
You're right, sir. It is good to fly old school again. There's something very forthright about a TIE fighter.
Not my favorite ship, but the sound of the TIE fighter is pretty awesome.
Better here than in the field again.
Keep your distance, Helix. Those engines run hot enough to vaporize a TIE.
I've known a few daredevils who found that out the hard way.
I never actually tried to fly close enough to those engines to see whether or not I'd get torched or not.
transport is ready.
Helix Squadron, head to the Gazanti and dock for hyperspace jump.
Roger that. So these don't actually have... TIE fighters don't have hyperspace capabilities, so we have to...
Throttle down below the Gazanti so its locks can engage.
We have to use another ship here, which is above us. So we're going to dock with it above us, and then it goes into hyperspace with us. And I've already customized my flight controls, so...
Helix Squadron are docked and clear for hyperspace jump. Remember, Helix, we'll have support, but finding the refugee convoy is up to us.
They won't escape the Empire twice.
So we're about to jump into the actual combat of this gameplay. I will say one thing, this game is visually stunning. The way it looks, the graphics are amazing, the gameplay is incredibly fast-paced, and it feels like a Star Wars experience. Which, on that note, oh yeah, Imperial March, it's time to get down to business.
Probably the most isolated trading post in this sector.
It's only a haven for thieves and pirates. If the refugees are hiding here, clearly they're not as innocent as they claim.
Carrier's moving into position.
Blockade is forming up. Our rear guard is secure at least.
Interesting. There's a lot of cargo traffic today.
Then our convoy might be hiding among them.
Agreed.
So,
Cargo vessels. This is Captain Lyndon Javes of the Galactic Empire. Prepare for immediate inspection. And this is Vostar Haven Station Master. Kindly avoid harassing my customers. If they cooperate, they'll be fine. Pilot, proceed. Acknowledged. Check your forward sensor. It will identify potential targets. Pilot, begin by inspecting that ship.
alright, so scan a ship, face it, just get close enough to it and it'll automatically scan.
We have always been loyal to the Empire. See? We're loyal. I swear.
Not part of the convoy. Check another ship.
Pilot, keep inspecting those ships and see if the refugees are here.
That's what I'm doing.
Check that ship next.
Look, I'll pay anything, just don't impound my ship. No sign it's from Alderaan. Keep looking. So you're not impounding my ship? There. A ship's trying to flee from a simple inspection. We should teach them some manners.
Yep, I agree.
Bring your weapon systems online. Pilot,
All right. Scan us then. Just stop shooting. No refugees here, sir. Just smuggled weapons and a cargo of spice.
let the fleet handle those smugglers. We should get to the station.
Roger that, Captain.
My customers are legitimate traders. You have no right.
Captain, the station's defenses just activated.
Helix Squadron.
About to have some fun.
We can't search under fire.
Alright, slowing down to half speed.
Unless they're prepared for return fire. Even the Empire should know that.
Gonna take out the turrets.
The defense capability is dropping. Keep going.
Alright, did I miss one? Oh, right there.
Taking fire.
And one more.
That should do. Good shooting, pilot.
It's what I do.
Will never recover from this.
Captain James, I think I found where the refugees are hiding. On our way. Pilot, with me.
Well, I'm gonna file Lieutenant Carroll. Oh, looks like
Activity.
Pilot's down. We have rebel X-wings on sensors.
well, so they came out of the
Good. Drive these Imperials off my station. They must be protecting the convoy. Defend yourselves if necessary. I'll look for the refugees.
Under fire! Rebel down.
come here. Yep, I'm aware they have shields. Yeah, yeah.
Scratch one.
Target destroyed. That's half the rebel scum destroyed. Enemy is down.
Alright, I'm speeding up, transferring power to lasers. Woohoo! Now this is pod racing.
One less rep.
Target destroyed. All rebel targets destroyed. Captain, the rebel fighters are coming from that tunnel through the station.
Guess where we're going next.
Convoy must be hiding in there. After them.
And this is where you start to get into some
There.
more intense
Convoy.
flying.
Prepare to fire.
And we're disabled.
Down.
No!
Those were iron missiles. Where the hell did they come from?
Sorry, Teresa. After Alderaan, I can't ignore what the Empire's become.
Sir. Lyndon, what are you saying?
That I don't care who ordered it. I didn't sign up to hurt innocent refugees. And if protecting them makes me a rebel, then so be it.
Betrayal.
Damn it! Pilot, see if you can bypass his shutdown.
So mash some buttons here.
Catch up with that traitor.
Okay, flight systems are back.
The vigilance. Captain Javes is aiding the rebellion. Send immediate assistance.
I hope it wouldn't come to this.
Missiles, watch out!
Think what you're fighting for.
And of course, you can't kill them no matter how hard you shoot them because this is part of the mission. So right now we're just chasing.
Don't make me return fire.
I see the dead ahead.
So even though you don't have shields,
Imperial Squadron, this
you
is
can
Mr.
repair
James.
yourself
We
periodically.
have families aboard. I'm here to help convoy leader. No time to explain. Just get out of this tunnel. I wish you'd seen things my way. Goodbye, Teresa.
The tunnel.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the prologue, which leads you to the first actual chapter, where you switch over to the Republic side of things and go from there. So as you can see, if you ever played the original X-Wing TIE Fighter games, uh, the core essence of those games is absolutely here. This feels very much like a thrilling Star Wars experience. It is incredibly awesome to be able to fly X-Wings and TIE Fighters and to blow things up. The sound effects are amazing. Obviously, you're not going to get the full effect when you're watching a video like this because the audio is turned down compared to my mic volume. But the sound effects of like trash hitting your, space debris hitting your ship as you fly through an explosion. It's just cool. And then as you start to take damage, your windshield starts to crack. And there's a lot of detail that's gone into this game to make it look really, really cool. For me, like I said, the takeaway from me is that this game very much fulfills that Star Wars experience. It fulfills that X-Wing TIE Fighter experience, and if you like flight sims, this is an easy game to get into. Now, I obviously don't have a flight stick. It's not hindered me in any way, shape, or form. I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that it's equally enjoyable with mouse and keyboard as well as with a controller. I'm actually using a PlayStation controller. I also have an Xbox controller. I didn't plug the Xbox. Excuse me. I didn't plug the Xbox one in today. So I just had the PlayStation one plugged in. The PlayStation one works, even though the button layout is slightly confusing because it's B is not B. It's actually square and etc. It doesn't really matter. I've watched people play with the joystick. I would love to play it with the joystick, but like I said earlier, there were no flight sticks available because of Microsoft Flight Sim in this game. And the only ones that are available right now are resellers. So these $60 flight sticks are selling for like $200 on Amazon right now. And I'm not, considering this was a game that I got 6 hours out of for the single player component, I'm probably only going to play multiplayer a couple times a week. This is a game that I'll keep on my hard drive just when I want to jump in and blow some stuff up, for 30 minutes here and there. I don't think I'll play it every single day. I haven't been playing it every single day, but also Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access came out, so I've been playing that a lot the last week. So we'll see how this game fits into my rotation of games that I play on a regular basis. So as an example, I play NBA 2K 2020 edition right now. I've been playing a lot of that for the past 6 months. I play that on an almost daily basis. I'll hop on for an hour, play a couple rounds. I'll play Baldur's Gate 3 for a little bit every single day. This game will be in my rotation, probably a couple times a week. So, again, I'm not going to show off the multiplayer component today. It was just I wanted to jump in and do a quick overview video and show you guys some of the basic gameplay. It gets more complex as you get deeper into the game and everything else. If I had to give it a rating, I'd give it like a, I don't know, 7 or 8 out of 10. I wish I could give it a 10, but it was just there's not enough content here for me to give it a 10. 6 hours of storyline and then a handful of maps that you will then rinse and repeat for apparently years to come, because EA stated yesterday, the day before, that they have no plans to add any additional content to this game. Maybe they'll do an expansion. But as far as treating the game as a service, the studio behind this has said from day one that they're not going to be treating this as a game as a service, which is why there's no microtransactions or anything like that. It's just $40. You're in, you're out. You get the game. Everything's here. You can go in, play the game by yourself or with friends, earn points, customize your ships, blow up stuff in space, and have a Star Wars experience. So if that's something that sounds fun to you, then I definitely think it's worth your time. It is only $40 compared to a lot of new games that come out that are like $60, so I think it's a very good bargain for what you're getting. For me, it was enjoyable. I'm probably going to go through the storyline again at some point in the next month or two, just to fully immerse myself in it, and then see how the multiplayer feels after I go through it for a couple of months. So, hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget you can catch out the entire storyline of the single player campaign in the 4 videos that are here on YouTube, so check that out. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, bell icon, follow along on Twitch. I stream most mornings pretty early Central Time, so I'll see you somewhere along the lines. Until next time, safe gaming.